bit of thunder down under with the opening race of the IndyCar season.
The IndyCar Series is presented in association with Champion Spark Plugs and Valvoline.
Is indeed a paradise on the western edge of the Pacific Ocean. The ocean kisses the soft sand on beautiful broad beaches. Surfers is on the Australian East Coast in Queensland, just north of the border with New South Wales. Hello and welcome to the Gold Coast of Australia. Let's take a look at the starting grid, brought to you by Die Hard. On the pole with a new track record is Al Unser Jr., starting alongside with his new Ford Cosworth Power, Michael Andretti. In the second row, the 1990 IndyCar champ, Emerson Fittipaldi, and two-time IndyCar champion, Bobby Rahal. In the third row, a three-time IndyCar champion and four-time Indy 500 winner, Rick Mears. And Mario Andretti, the 1984 IndyCar champion. Eddie Cheever, also with Ford Power, is in the fourth row, along with Scott Pruitt with a new car and a new Chevy engine. In the fifth row is Scott Goodyear with a new team and new Chevy Power, and the 1988 IndyCar champion, Danny Sullivan. In the sixth row, the defending champion of this race, John Andretti and Scott Brayton. Gregor Fiotek is in the seventh row, driving an A.J. Foyt's number 14 and Tony Bettenhausen. Fabrizio Barbazza and Ted Prappus in the eighth row. In the ninth row, it's Jimmy Vasser and Eric Bachelard. The 10th row, the first Philippine to drive in an IndyCar race, Jove Marcello and Buddy Lazier. The 11th row, Ross Bentley and Nicola Morozzo and A.J. Foyt will start alone at the back of the field. You look over the shoulder of Michael Andretti, the defending champion, on the front row. This is a temporary circuit, Tom Steva. It runs along the beach, but it is beautiful.
Well, it is, Paul. Gorgeous views from a lot of places around the racetrack. But basically, we're talking about two drag strips here with traffic cops down both sides. The traffic cops being, some people call them the chicanes. Now, there's been a lot of controversy and speculation on what they can do with the chicanes. Last year, we had trouble here. A lot of the leaders taken out in one of the chicanes, and they've tried to improve upon that. They've opened up the vision into the chicane on the back straightaway that caused most of the problem. I'm not sure that's helped. It's given the drivers a false sense of security. They get in too hot, and it gives them trouble on the exit of the chicane. Again, a concrete tunnel, two straightaways. The chicanes cause the brakes to be a very big factor that we're going to see later on in this race.
All right, as they move toward the start now, weather forecast for the day, well, there is the possibility of showers, and from time to time you do see some sprinkles of water on Michael Andretti's onboard camera. And what's on the line today? Lots of money and lots of prestige as they come off the final turn looking for a green flag. And with Nick Fenoro, the starter, looking at the field as they come down, he gives them the green. And the 1992 IndyCar season is underway with a drag race. Michael Andretti leading Al Unser Jr. into the first corner. Rick Mears drops into the third place. The field safely through the first turns. Now Al Unser Jr. gives Michael some pursuit. That's Bobby Rahal in fourth and Mario Andretti running in fifth. Nice clean start. Rick Mears is in sixth place. Now for the first time, they turn onto the Esplanade, the roadway that runs right alongside the beach. The Pacific Ocean is only a couple of hundred yards over to their right as the battle for the lead is underway.
It looks like Al, Paul, wasn't happy with Michael getting the jump on him in the start. He's all over him right now.
Well, the Galmer car that Al Unser Jr. drives, of course, he put it on the pole. but he did so with a setup that was very, very loose. I'm sure he can't race with that setup.
Well, I don't think so, but you saw them both come onto the back straightaway there, and they both threw the car sideways, so they're not being real gentle with the cars early in the race, that's for sure.
It's one of the things we've certainly seen in the practice here is they are really able to manhandle the cars and pitch them around.
Whoa, you saw Emo in the background of that shot just about lose control of that automobile.
It looks like it's slippery for all of them. Fittipaldi got it sideways. Michael kicked the back end a little bit as they came off the corner before that. And of course, the situation here in a tropical area is you can have a light shower in one section of the track and the sun shining in another. And the real problem I would think that would create for a driver is you're not sure what you're going to find.
Well, you're not, and so you got to tiptoe your way around that situation. But it'll be interesting to see if it's going to be a factor later in this race.
Well, Gary Gerald is pit side. Gary, it seems like it's pretty slippery out there.
Paul, I have to wonder if it's not because of the shower. It's sunny right here in the pits, but yet rain is falling. And in fact, a lot of the teams are already getting the rain tires close to the wall in case it becomes a much harder downpour. It's just spitting, but it is consistently moisture falling from the sky at this time.
Well, Gary Gerald, while we have you on the line, the indication was, in fact, we saw it, Danny Sullivan on the first lap he took on this course put rain tires on to cure them. Do you think any of the other teams did that?
I have not seen that be the case, Paul.
And there you see the rain to kart safety vehicle from Michael Andretti's onboard camera. But of course, under the rules of kart, they can continue racing and are doing so, though they are all racing at the moment with the slick tires. And if that rain would continue and this course would become damp, then you'd have to have some rain tires pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's all prepared for rain tires. You see Michael get rid of one of the tear-offs early. This is early to be getting rid of the tear-offs in the kind of race like this.
Especially considering he's running in the lead, doesn't have the exhaust of anybody else in his face.
No, it's just the weather outside that's causing his problem right now.
The order remains static. The rest of the field coming through and seem to have come into single file. The one car, that's Tony Bentonhausen, with a quick turn inside in that slippery section of the course, and he was nosed in against the wall. It was difficult to tell if he touched it. Let's go back to the pits. Here's Jan Beekes.
Thank you, Paul. Tom has been talking about whether the teams are ready with rain tires or not. You can actually see the rain coming upon this wheel that we have ready. This is a brand new, also Goodyear ready radial for the first time this race. Most of the teams are ready. The Penske's are ready to go.
So the rain tires are there. The rain is kind of here as Michael Andretti continues to lead the pole sitter, Al Unser Jr. Now, they've been running up on the curbs. You saw that there. And as they got deeper and deeper in practice, Tom Sneva, they seemed to get braver and braver on how far they were going to put a wheel up on the curbs on those chicanes.
Well, a lot of times it's show and tell. You know, you got to feel your way around, see what you can get away with, how much of the curb you can clip off without getting the car out of shape. And they've experimented with that throughout the practice session and pretty well know. It's interesting to see here. You can see the new Ford pull away from the old Chevrolet, but it looks like little Al gets into the corner a little deeper. Maybe a little better brakes than Michael at this point.
Michael Andretti through the chicanes now. Very, very quick on the backside. Faster yet, 182 miles an hour down the front side of this course. And the people are jammed in the grandstands around this track here. Beautiful circuit, well prepared. The second year that they have raced here at Surfers Paradise.
Paul, you can see they've tried to resurface parts of the racetrack here to smooth it out, but you can still see Michael's head bob around quite a bit, showing the stiffness of the chassis in this in the IndyCars.
First, second, and third. Michael, then little Al, then Emerson Fittipaldi. You can see the relationship right there. As again, little Al begins to close down, and it looks like Fittipaldi is beginning to make some headway.
I think Emo is coming. He sort of felt the car out and maybe full of fuel. He wasn't quite as quick as the other two, but as they're running the fuel out, Emo seems to be coming towards the front.
Well, as Michael leads it, John Andretti's crew has indicated that they want to bring their car in, the defending champion, and replenish that car. And there is John Andretti in the pits. Change of all four tires. So what's that tell us?
Well, I'm not so sure. They're not putting on the rain tires, so that isn't the problem. It's too early to be a normal pit stop. They've got some kind of adjustment they're trying to make. I didn't see too many chassis adjustments attempted to be made, so he just might have had a tire going down.
Well, John was pretty well holding his own in 8th place. Here is Mario Andretti. He runs in 4th place. You get a glimpse of Bobby Rahal just behind him, and Rahal on board now as he closes in on the great Mario Andretti. Well, I love to listen to those engines as they power up down the backside here.
Well, they're having to use all the gears available. They're 6-speed transmissions. They're shifting about 60 times per lap, so that's over 4,000 shifts before this race is over.
Watching the 9th place car, Rick Mears, car number 4. Take a look at the wings, Tom Steva. He's got some problems.
Yeah, you know, it looked like Rick dropped back the same lap that John Andretti came into the pit. So it's very likely that those two got together, loosened the wing, and finally a piece of the wing has completely left that vehicle.
Well, John and Rick Mears were running together on the course, but now Rick Mears has to struggle with this problem. Though it's never quite as serious as it looks with the front wings. We saw Al Unser Jr. win a race with one wing just propped all the way up at right angles to the ground.
Well, Paul, especially at these street circuits, aerodynamics aren't as key as they are at a high-speed oval like Indianapolis. The corners are very slow, and as you go through the corners slow, obviously aerodynamics aren't as big a factor. So I think that's why it might not even hurt, and sometimes it helps the car if it loses some front end down the course.
And Rick Mears makes his first stop of the season. Jan Beekes is there.
And they're taking a look at the front wing. They're going to try and dial some more into it. They decided not to change the wing. They have a spare standing by. He's underway.
So Rick Mears makes it in and out of the pits. He was in 9th position when he came in. Interestingly enough, just ahead of Rick as he came in was Bobby Rahal, who has been falling steadily backwards. One car. This is Gregor Wojtek as he brushed the wall as he learns about the Indy cars.
Well, in brushing the wall, he must have lost brakes or steering or something because he just drove it straight off.
Yeah, I think he was trying to slow it down and use the wall as a cushion to try to get that car slowed down. And Al Unser Jr. makes his first stop of the year. Here's Gary.
Appearing to be routine as we watch them from the near side of the pit wall, from the rear of the car, flipping the throttle off the jacks, waiting to get a full complement of fuel. Now he's ready to get out of here. Excellent stop. Let's go with Jan Beekes.
As he makes his way down here, Emerson Fittipaldi just come off the jacks. He's away a little longer stop than what they had with Rick Mears. Also, no changes on either Penske car.
So both of the Penske cars have been in and out of the pits. The second place car, Al Unser Jr., has been in and out. This car remains out on the circuit. It is, of course, the leader of the race, Michael Andretti. How far can they stretch the fuel on board with that new Cosworth XP engine, the Ford Cosworth? This is Scott Pruitt in for what appears to be routine service.
It does. It was interesting to note Rick Mears and the RPM he had to keep in the motor when he was just sitting there getting the tires changed. A lot higher than the old Chevrolet when they're in the pit. So I don't know if that's an electronic problem they're worried about or what it is.
I wondered, it almost sounded like a throttle was stuck when he first came in.
Well, it did. I doubt if that's the case. It just might be the electronics and needing to know that the engine isn't going to die on him.
So we wait for Michael Andretti to make his stop. Let's get an update on Bobby Rahal. Here's Jan Beekes.
Yes, Paul, Bobby has been in and out. A quick stop for Bobby Rahal. Very interesting at this end of the pit lane. Very few changes on the cars. So they must be able to. Let's go back to you, Paul.
We're on board with Bobby Rahal, and here comes Michael Andretti for his stop. Gary Gerald?
And indeed, the butterflies for this pit crew, the first real test of a brand new season, being challenged and met right now. We're looking to see if they make any adjustments. None at the front. They clean some debris out of the right radiator entry side pod. Fuel hoses disengaged. 15.5 seconds. That's about 2 seconds slower than Unser's stop. Let's see what it translates to on the racetrack.
So Al Unser Jr. on the main stretch. As he flashes over the line, Michael Andretti pulled out. And we'll see how they come into position as they come down to the end of the road. As one of the Penske cars, Fittipaldi, comes back into the pits, that would be an unscheduled stop.
Paul and Michael stopped. You notice they had the tires changed quite a while before they got all the fuel in the car. Now, that either means that the fuel, the tank was emptier, or it just wasn't taking on fuel quite as quick as it should have been.
A winner in any engine, in any car. Champion.
The world's fastest and most exotic Mercedes-Benz drives on Goodyear Eagle radials, and only on Goodyear Eagle radials. Why? Because the Mercedes engineers want it that way, and Goodyear makes it that way.
What you're about to see is fast, very fast. When the Pennzoil Special is racing at 230 miles per hour at Indy, its engine needs all the protection it can get. And that's what it gets with Pennzoil, the same straight-off-the-shelf Pennzoil quality that goes in your car. On the road or on the racetrack, nothing performs like Pennzoil, because nothing protects like Pennzoil. Pennzoil Motor Oil. Ask for it.
Fabrizio Barbaza there in the 30 car as Michael comes up behind him, and I think Michael expected that he was going to get passed on that one.
Well, Barbaza's a good IndyCar racer, and he isn't going to give ground unless he has to.
Barbaza finally lets both first and second place pass. You get a good view of the chicane there. And Michael Andretti, of course, in his mind, he lost the single point given for pole position. That went into the hands of Al Unser Jr. And Michael would like to lead the dominant number of laps in this race so that he can pick up the point for leading the most laps. So right now in the championship fight, it is Al Unser Jr. who is leading the points, but look at little Al. Now he begins to mount a charge, and it looked for a second like he might make a move on Michael, but it looks like he got a little hard on the brakes, too.
Well, he might. You can see they just went around a Scott Brayton on tow behind one of the safety vehicles, and that can be a real problem for these drivers out there. That big vehicle going a lot slower than the race speed can be a real hindrance to the race driver.
All right, an update on Eddie Cheever's situation. Gary Gerald is now with Tom Anderson.
Yes, Paul, Tom Anderson, the team manager. What was the difficulty for Eddie?
Oh, and Danny Sullivan. Excuse me, Gary Gerald, but Danny Sullivan lost it, got it sideways. Here comes Mario Andretti right up on top of Sullivan. Sullivan was running in fourth place, and so as Mario came up, it became a battle for position. Yellow flags came out, and Danny Sullivan was able to keep it going, but Mario was able to inch his way past. Now, perhaps we can go back to pit side once again. I'm sorry for the interruption, Gary Gerald.
Tom, we apologize for the interruption. Tell us again what happened with Eddie.
Gary, right now it looks like the best thing we can guess is that the clutch release bearing is sticking on the spigot shaft and not allowing the clutch to come back. We'll have to come in next time. He should be okay while he's running now. He'll just have to not use the clutch when he's shifting.
Thank you very much.
You know, whenever you come to Australia, one of the first souvenirs you buy is a hat. I don't think Al Unser Jr. intended it that way. Look at the left front wing.
Well, it's a problem for Al, but just think about the poor guy that's going to get sunburned all day.
And they have gone to a full course yellow. The pace car coming out. And all the cars signaling that they are slowing down on the circuit. This will give Al Unser Jr. a chance to lose that hat at the front of the car. This is the 26th lap of competition. Johnny Rutherford is driving the pace car here.
Looks like Al is either trying to stretch that arm and hand or trying to signal somebody. Now,
yeah, Michael figured it's working, so he got a hat of his own.
It's quite a collection they got going.
That gold car in third position, though not on the course, is Jove Marcello. He's that Philippine who is driving in his first IndyCar race. And there is where Michael picked up his hat. The pace begins now to pick up with Michael Andretti still in the front of the field after the first stops and the first yellow of the year. And there's the green flag. Down the Pacific Highway, chased by Al Unser Jr. The battle continues at the front of the field. Fittipaldi sits there in third.
Looks like Vassar made a good move on the start to get by and get a position at that point.
That light-colored car, Jim Vassar, the Stars and Stripes machine, he darted out, made a move. You can see that Little Al's decided to keep his hat. Fittipaldi chases. There's Jim Vassar. And Little Al looks for racing room to the inside of Michael Andretti.
Vassar's actually made the biggest move in this race. I think started about 17th up to about 10th at this point.
Vassar with a magnificent run. He runs at the front of the field, but of course he is not in the order at the front. He's a lap behind, but still he's trying to keep up with those leaders.
Tell you, the big news for that yellow flag situation was for Emerson Fittipaldi. He had to stop and go penalty on his pit stop. He lost 8, 10, 12 seconds, but with that yellow, he was able to close up that distance that he lost by the penalty, and now is right back in the hunt.
And of course, both the Penske cars made 2 stops during that session. That gave them an opportunity to have a little more fuel in the tank when they came back to the green flag, so they can go a little deeper into the race.
Yeah, that's just good strategy. It didn't hurt them track position-wise, and now they've got a longer window. They can go farther until they have to make that next stop.
Both Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. closing right in behind Michael Andretti, whose car continues to dominate the run here, but Al Unser Jr. seems to want a challenge at every opportunity now. 30 laps are complete as we approach the halfway point of this 65-lap event here on the Gold Coast of Australia.
You can see how Little Al really closes the gap getting into the corner. Again, the brakes or the balance in that car enables the car to get in the corner a lot deeper. Again, he's complaining that he loses Michael on the straightaway. That new Ford has got some horsepower.
Fight for the lead continues. Nothing changes in the order behind the leaders. This is where the battle lies. And you're on board with the leader of the race, Michael Andretti. A little momentum lost as Al Unser Jr. falls back now. Fittipaldi with Eddie Cheever just behind him. But of course, with Eddie's problems, he is not running on the same lap with the leaders. Back at the front of the field. I think Little Al at least got Michael's attention, because Michael now seems to try to pull away. He doesn't want Little Al up that close to him.
Well, it's interesting, when they come off of yellow or the start of the race, when the tires are cooler, it looks like Little Al can get a bit of a run on him. But then as the tires get heated up, both having the same amount of wing in the car, it looks like the horsepower gets away from him.
Michael Andretti flashes across the line and picks up the point for leading the most laps of the race, now past the halfway point. So there is a 1-point even tie in the championship. Michael Andretti and Al Unser Jr., they have battled this way right from the green flag through 2 caution periods. And it is a battle of engines as well. The Ford Cosworth XB sitting up in Michael Andretti's car, and of course Chevy power in that new Galmer chassis. Al Unser Jr. there. Little Al started on the pole, but Michael jumped the lead right off the bat. Let's go pit side and Gary Gerald.
Oh, we just got a quick word with Rick Gallus. He's always the colorful one. I said, are there any concerns? He says, we're always concerned when we're not in the lead, but they like the way the car is balanced. They're hoping to get to lap 47 or 48 before their final pit stop. There's some smiles and a lot of optimism down here as they stalk Michael Andretti.
Well, I would think that they would more than like it. They have to be more than pleased. A brand new chassis and performing that well here. Of course, Michael has a brand new engine, and it's running perfectly at the moment. So the fight continues on the streets of Surfers Paradise with Michael Andretti in front.
The World League kicks off at 8:30.
The IMSA GT Series moves on to the Sebring International Raceway for the third race of the season. It's the grueling Grand Prix of Endurance. 12 hours of high-powered excitement around the 3.7-mile circuit. Fly with us to Florida. Saturday evening at 7:30 on Screen Sport.
Can learn a lot in 125 years. Valvoline has. You learn in the lab, you learn on the road, you learn on the racetrack. As you learn, you make your product better. And better, and better. Today's Valvoline will keep your engine cleaner than ever before. And cleaner means more protection against engine wear. 125 years of quality. That's why people who know use Valvoline.
At Surfers Paradise, a battle now between the sixth place Bobby Rahal and Mario Andretti. But the report now is that Michael Andretti at the front of the field may have a problem. His crew is waiting. Gary Gerald?
Paul, we don't know much. We just know that the crew went over the wall, and they say he'll be coming in. We expect him, and they say there's smoke from the car. So you can probably tell more from the monitor.
He's on the way to you right now, Gary.
There he is. And he comes in with the engine on. Let's see if he keeps it on, and we can see the smoke at the back. Now they dump water. The engine has been shut off. This does not look good for Michael Andretti.
Al Unser Jr. picks up the lead. That's exactly what everybody was worried about, Tom.
It really is. You could see Michael shaking his head, a little bit disgusted. But again, a new engine performed very well, but not for long enough.
Carried him for 41 laps of the run, but still not something to be too disappointed about. It, after all, put him in front of the field for a dominant portion of the race.
Yeah, I don't think they can be disappointed. First race, they really should have had the pole position. They had an electrical problem in the last qualifying session that probably kept him off the pole. In the race, we heard a report from Al that Michael was getting away from him on the long straightaway, so obviously the engine's got the horsepower. Now they've got to go to work and try to develop the reliability.
Michael Kranifus and all the people from Ford are here. There you get a look at that new engine, which will be in a new chassis when they move to the next race at Phoenix, Arizona. Michael's staying in the car. I would suspect, well, now that looks like they're going to take him out. I was going to say that maybe they'll try to put the car back out so that they can find out anything new if they can get that engine going again. Let's go to Gary Gerald once again.
And Paul, as we see Michael now get out of the cockpit of the car where the crew tells us it's a broken header that turns out to be the terminal problem. The day is done for the defending IndyCar champion. We'll try to get a word with him in just a few moments.
So the header, not really, it's part of the exhaust system, not really part of the engine.
Well, if that's the case, you know how the PR is for these engine manufacturers. You know, a lot of times it's a transmission, a header, or whatever. If it is, in fact, a header, that's not a big, serious problem. But the fact remains is that Michael Andretti's out of the race.
You're not suggesting that occasionally they would put a new spin on what may be wrong, would you?
Well, you know, you just never know out there.
You never did that.
PR seems to be a big factor in these races.
If I remember correctly, you as a driver were never at fault for any accidents, too.
Well, that's part of the driver's handbook, you know. You've got to have all the excuses.
Back at the front of the field, which now is this car, the number 3 machine of Al Unser Jr., but in close pursuit is Emerson Fittipaldi, and by the way, not too far back is Danny Sullivan in third place. Let's go back to the pits. Michael Andretti is with Gary Gerald.
Well, Michael, this is not the scene that I know you wanted to reenact. You wanted Ford to be in victory lane for the first time in 20 years. What was that problem?
It looks like a broken header, which doesn't have anything to do with the engine. It's just a header exhaust plate broke.
Tell us about how the day was going as you were trying to protect that lead.
Getting better and better. I think at the beginning I was struggling a little bit, but as the track got better, my car seemed to adapt to it very well, and in the end there, we were just starting to pull away. About a second a lap went out.
How about fuel concerns? Were you had any of those to face?
At first we did, but after the yellows, there was no problem.
Well, you put it back in the shop and you get ready for the first oval at Phoenix. We wish you well. All right, the defending champion heads for the garage.
At the front of the field, you see the interval, first and second. Then Eddie Cheever, who is running a lap behind the race, and it's quite a distance back to the third place car of Danny Sullivan. You can see dark clouds lying just off the shore, and the wind has picked up substantially here. Let's go down pit side again, Jan Beekes.
Well, we're standing by waiting for the arrival of Emerson Fittipaldi. They're now waving the sign. Here he comes. A very important pit stop. He's very close in second position. He told us before the event that after this pit stop, he was going to go for it. He was going to use all the revs of the new Chevy V8 engine. And we already heard that Al Unser Jr. had a problem with that new engine of Michael Andretti pulling away from him. This seems a little longer than we would have for a normal stop. There must be a problem, but he's now away. Very long stop for Emerson Fittipaldi for this late in the race.
Looked to me like they were trying to make sure they had every drop of fuel in the car.
Well, that's the key. What happens is later in the race, you don't have as much fuel in the pit tank. You don't have a big head of fuel to gravity feed the cars as well. So a lot of times the pit stops later in the race will be longer than the ones early in the race.
So second place, Emerson Fittipaldi has made the pit stop. The early leader of the race led for more than halfway. Michael Andretti has fallen by the wayside with a broken header. And Al Unser Jr. inherits the lead, but he is yet to make his second, what should be his final stop of the day. You also see Eddie Cheever there in close pursuit. Again, two different powers, but Eddie Cheever is a lap behind the race. And the man actually in contest right now with Al Unser Jr. would be Danny Sullivan.
Tell you, I don't know if you noticed Emerson coming into the pits. We had a great shot of it. It didn't look like he lifted until he got about halfway down the pit straight. You know, you don't want to be casually walking across the pits when these guys come towards you.
No, he was on the fly when he came in here. So Fittipaldi in and out. We would expect a stop from sixth place Rick Mears as well, though the Penske camp of their two cars play two entirely different scenarios in some races, and I would suspect this would be one of them, so they can find out as much information as they can. So at the front of the field, it is still Al Unser Jr. in his new Galmer car. Danny Sullivan moves to second. Mario Andretti comes up to third. Bobby Rahal is fourth, and Fittipaldi came out in fifth place. There's Rahal's pit as they wait for Bobby Rahal to stop. He's due any time now. So is Al Unser Jr. and Danny Sullivan. And so the race itself, Tom Sneeva, will go over to the hands of the pit crews.
Well, I think it will, and I'm hoping what's happened. Rahal was right on Mario, but Rahal's crew might have wired him or radioed to him to let him know that Michael had lost that motor. So give Mario some room. You don't need to pressure him now. It could be that Mario won't be around at the end of this race, and so they might be trying to give him a little bit of a cushion.
And there you see Rick Mears now closing up behind Rahal, and that is a fight for position as well. As Rahal came off the pace a little bit, Rick Mears closed in. So did John Andretti, the defending champion. And so now it becomes a fight for fourth place. And look at that. Rahal slowed down greatly. He is definitely off the pace. Sounded like the engine shut down as both Mears and John Andretti come past and pick up positions.
Yeah, it's obvious Rahal's not slowing down because of pit orders. He's got some kind of problem. It's either low on fuel or some kind of engine problem.
This would have been the one team that we thought would have made it through the race. Gary Gerald.
Al Unser Jr. waves off the drink. They're not going to make any chassis changes. It's fresh rubber. They hope this is the last stop, but with threatening skies, the rain tires are here at the wall as well. It is, of course, the regular tire that goes on. He continues to flip the throttle to get all the fuel. This is not a quick stop, Paul. They're still waiting. I can't see it. May be a problem on the right rear. Indeed, it is.
They struggled with the air wrench on the right rear, Gary.
And now we can hear that wrench go to work, and we're past 30 seconds on the stop for the leader in the pits. He may no longer be the leader.
Danny Sullivan was running in second place, and the crew is laid out so that Danny Sullivan can make his stop. Let's go further down the pits to Bobby Rahal's pit in Jan Vikas.
Al Unser Jr. flies the fight. Now Bobby Rahal is underway. Bobby Rahal, even with slowing, got right behind. We had Al Unser Jr. go by, and Bobby Rahal ducked right in behind. Look at the difference in time that was spent here in the pits. So remember, it was Jim Prescott that came from Gallus that's now right here in the Rahal Hogan Racing that made that quick stop.
And for the moment, this is the leader of the race. Number 18, Danny Sullivan, the new teammate to Al Unser Jr. Again, this is a new Galmer chassis.
Yeah, it is the Galmer chassis, both at the front. It's surprising to see an air wrench problem in Little Al's pit early in the season. They've got all winter to go through the equipment. You'd think the equipment would be top-notch, first class, and in great shape for the first race of the season.
The other side of that, of course, is that they are a little rusty. Now, some of the teams actually will practice pit stops throughout the winter. I think Gallus is one of them.
Well, Gallus is one that does sort of an inter-squad competition. They try to keep the competition among the teams as Sullivan comes into the pits.
And here is Danny Sullivan coming in for his stop, Gary.
Brings right on the mark. This has been the surprise story. Sullivan had a crash on Friday that left him with a very sore left hip and back. Now he's down off the jacks and trying to get all the fuel is much more like a regular Indy stop at 14 seconds.
And Danny Sullivan roars away, and this man picks up the lead of the race. It is none other than Mario Andretti. What an incredible day it would become if he could pick up the lead and win it. He has the lead now on the 48th lap of 65 laps, the scheduled distance here. Mario Andretti, again the new engine, the Ford Cosworth XB. The problem on Michael's car was not an engine. Little weld, I think, probably broke in the exhaust system. But Mario now has the lead of the race, but he has yet to make his second and final stop.
Well, he's going to be stopping shortly. The new Cosworth, with the horsepower and the RPM that we were concerned about for fuel mileage, doesn't seem to be a real factor because the Fords are beginning a good distance between pit stops.
So Mario Andretti, and you can see he runs all alone. He is well out in front of the second place car, which at the moment is Rick Mears out of the Penske organization. So Mario, how far can they carry that engine? They've done extensive testing. They know a great deal about what its fuel capability is, but they have never seen it when it has been racing solidly with somebody, and those conditions always change things a bit.
Well, that's what gives these teams with the big budgets the real big advantage. They're able to do the testing and development that they need to do in the off season, and you just can't beat testing. The more you do, the stronger you become as a team.
Mario Andretti, they had the tires laid out for him, but they pulled them back. Gary?
Indeed, Paul, they're going to go for fuel only. It's been 3.5 years since Mario's won an IndyCar race. They're pulling out all the stops. They want to see the man behind car number 2's wheel get the victory lane. They wait for the fueling. They're off 14.5 seconds.
And Mario Andretti roars back into the fight.
It wasn't fuel only. If you notice, they put a little bit of right front wing in that car, so he must have had a little understeer, and they're trying to correct that to make it a little bit quicker in the last segment.
And Rick Mears tries to make it to the pits, but he overshoots. Now he's going to try to find reverse. He gets it, backs out of the runoff road, and Roger Penske's watching this on television, and Rick's going to hate that.
Well, it's just, small mistakes lead to big problems, and Rick just tried to get in a little bit too hot, locked up the front end, and slid through the runoff area.
And so with Rick Mears and his problems, the lead of the race falls to John Andretti, but he has yet to make a stop. Very much shades of last year when you consider that Rick Mears had the lead, ran off an escape road. John picked up the lead. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Paul, there's a lot of drama here. You saw that Roger Penske saw it on the monitor. They're getting the rain tires ready. They may have had a call. And remember that Rick Mears had the last pit stop, so he has the latest window. If it keeps persisting to rain here, he could be and take that advantage, the final stop to get the rain tires. They're scrambling, trying to make that decision.
Well, Rick Mears was, in fact, the leader of the race, but John Andretti took over, being chased by Danny Sullivan. And look at Sullivan. There's the leader of the race, John Andretti, right now. But again, he is due for a stop, and in fact, the Hall VDS team has the equipment laid out, expecting the arrival of John Andretti at just any moment as he comes off of this lap. And there's John on the pit road. The crew is right there.
The leader's in, and it is raining, so it looks like they've got slicks out there. They're not even going to change the tires, so look at the rain in the back.
Over on the other side, this is on the Esplanade, and Tony Bettenhausen now must tiptoe. Jan Beekes.
We're here, and Rick Mears just pulled in also Emerson Fittipaldi. They are going for rain tires. It's not actually raining right here, but it is on other parts of the circuit. When the track is dry, they have to be very, very careful with these rain tires. So he has to be careful not to light it up too much. There he goes, smoking those tires. He's got to be careful unless it's really wet.
There's Vassar with a problem, as look at the rain coming down on the backside. The 30 car belongs to Fabrizio Barbazza, and Bobby Rahal, still running on slicks, has really cut the speed down. And the yellow flags come out all around the course. They will put the pace car out. Boy, look at that. Shades of the Indianapolis 500 when Bobby Unser won it last.
Yeah, but at that point, the race was over.
So now, with the double yellows out, look at Mario and Al Unser Jr. tiptoe around, while Rick now has his rain tires.
probably
But the yellows are out. Wait, what's Rick up to here?
I don't know. It looks like a couple of them are still racing. They're not sure that it's a full course yellow possibly at this point, but this is the toughest condition when half the track is dry and half of it's this wet. Look at that.
I guess you could argue as there is Prappus with a quick spin right in the straightaway, probably as he was upshifting. And there is Buddy Lazier. They tiptoe their way around this track, full course yellow. Rick Mears appeared to go around some cars under the yellow, and it is raining all around the circuit here at Surfers Paradise.
The World League kicks off at 8:30.
Fast, very fast. When the Pennzoil Special is racing at 230 miles per hour at Indy, its engine needs all the protection it can get. And that's what it gets with Pennzoil, the same straight-off-the-shelf Pennzoil quality that goes in your car. On the road or on the racetrack, nothing performs like Pennzoil because nothing protects like Pennzoil. Pennzoil Motor Oil. Ask for it.
Back at Surfers Paradise, Australia, Rick Mears leads the field back to what should be a green flag. Johnny Rutherford has already picked up the pace of the pace car. Now, as you look at this and look at the field, you will notice that Al Unser Jr. has been moved back to 4th place. That was with his agreement as they realized that there was a pass that did, in fact, take place under the yellow there. He has dropped back. There are 2 cars a lap behind, actually 3 now, between Rick Mears and the 2nd place car, that blue and white machine of Danny Sullivan. There comes Rick. Bentonhausen, Cheever, there is Danny Sullivan, and he is followed immediately by Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi, and Bobby Rahal. So 2 challenges here for Rick Mears. Part of the course is partially dry. Part of it is very wet. The green flag comes out, and we are in a sprint race to the finish under most strange conditions.
Rick got a tremendous jump on the field. This will help him with such few laps left in the race, Paul.
And Danny Sullivan in 2nd place tries to carve up through the field, gets around Bentonhausen, and hopes that he can now mount a challenge against the leader of the race, Rick Mears. As they went by, it was 7 laps to go.
You can see the track starting to dry up exceptionally quick. It might be a factor whether the rain tires are going to last even the 7 laps that are left in this race.
Perfectly dry in this section of the track. That's eating away at those rain tires. Here comes Danny Sullivan with Al Unser Jr. in 3rd place, just behind. They're trying to close in as best they can. 1 car separates them and the leader, Rick Mears, as he tiptoes off the corner. But they are very definitely within striking distance.
What's going to happen now, you might be able to catch the guy in front of you, but you're going to have to get offline to make the pass. Offline's going to be wetter, more slippery, so it's going to give the advantage to the leader at this point.
Different conditions, different sections of the course. There's Danny Sullivan, the 18 car, running in 2nd, and he, in fact, is closing in on Eddie Cheever. But look at the back end of that car twitch.
Well, Danny's got the leg in it, no question about it. To try to catch the leader, he's got to jump the car sideways. That's going to be hard on those rain tires.
Rick Mears for Penske at the front of the field, and then right behind the 2 Rick Gallas cars, teammates Danny Sullivan and Al Unser Jr. Roger Penske keeps a close track of his car, as little Al is actually challenging his teammate in a battle for 2nd.
Well, he gave him a good run at it. What would be a little disappointing to Gallas is if the 2 teammates would happen to take each other out here this late in the race. But they're both after the win, and there's no rules or regulations. It's who can get there the quickest.
And would that happen, Mario Andretti is sitting in 4th place, and he would move up into 2nd. Look at little Al, a different line off of the corner as he searches for traction.
Yeah, exceptionally different lines getting off. Little Al's trying anything he can, but to get off line, he's in the wetter area, but he's got to run it, Danny, here.
Boy, he takes a strong run, locks the brakes up going down into the corner, and makes the pass. Boy, you talk about daring.
Yeah, that's a good effort. You just don't know if it's going to stop or not. You got to be so gentle with the brake pedal. If you just lock a tire up for an instant, it gets the car to sliding, and you just can't get it back when it's wet.
I would bet, because both pit crews could see the start of that, they just closed their eyes and then ran over for the TV to see who came out on top.
Well, I'm not sure Al didn't have his eyes closed right here. Good move. You can see the vision for Al wasn't very good as he pulled out from behind. but he gets back. He gets back into the dry area pretty quick, and that might have saved him.
And the fight closes up even more. Look at Fittipaldi as he comes up right behind Al Unser Jr. That's Bobby Rahal that rides in 4th place just behind Fittipaldi, the new black and gold livery on Rahal's new team. Rick stretches it out a little as Fittipaldi mounts a challenge on Al Unser Jr. He's alongside. Can he hold the line? He does. The Penske cars run 1st and 2nd.
That's a great move by Emo. Again, he got a little run off the corner and was able out braking, getting into the corner, and just a good move by that Penske car.
Now, with Emerson Fittipaldi up to protect the position, Rick Mears lights it up and goes around Eddie Cheever as Roger Penske keeps an eye on both of his cars on the circuit.
Rick is probably one of the greatest drivers at pulling out a little bit extra late in the race. The adrenaline flow has got to be controlled, and Rick is one of the great ones at controlling that adrenaline flow, especially late in the race.
There are 3 laps to go, and this is the first race of the season. And Rick Mears and Emerson Fittipaldi, the teammates, are leading it here and now. That's Bobby Rahal as he chases Al Unser Jr. Penske cars 1 and 2.
You can see Rick, he's jumping all over the throttle. He's got it by the neck right now.
So Rick Mears out in front. Fittipaldi closes. Rahal now closes down on the back end of Al Unser Jr. First 4 positions all fighting here at Surfers. Emerson Fittipaldi has now cleared Eddie Cheever. And the Penske cars run 1st and 2nd. Al Unser Jr. is 3rd, but if he is to make any challenge at all with 2 laps to go, he's going to have to move around Eddie Cheever. But here's the question, Tom Sneva. Some of the course is wet, some of it is very dry. They are on rain tires. Those dry sections really have to be eating at those tires.
Well, they certainly do, and what we're seeing is Emo was a little bit quicker than Rick when it was dry out earlier in the race, and as the track's drying, Emo is closing the gap. So we're getting closer to a dry track situation. Emo's car was a little better early in the race, and it looks like it still is.
The word teammates only vaguely applies now because Roger Penske has them both turned loose. And Rick Mears will have to hold off a challenge from his own teammate. It's a situation I suspect the 2 of them love.
Well, here comes Emo on the inside. Oh, he locks it up.
Grab the line, locked him up, gets in ahead of Rick Mears. Fittipaldi has the lead, but can he hold on to it? Rick Mears is right there and challenging again.
A great move by Emo. They both had to lock him up a couple times to try to get those maneuvers handled.
And I don't think Rick Mears is going to think that's the end of it. But Fittipaldi, who has in the past been brilliant in the rain, proves to be that way again as he gets around Rick Mears, really using a wet and dry section of the course to accomplish it. So Fittipaldi in front for the first time today with Mears chasing.
The only question now is, did Emo have to use the tires up a little too severely to go from 10 or 20 car lengths back to get the lead? That'll be the question. Maybe Rick's tires are going to last just that little bit longer.
And Fittipaldi comes off the course, cuts across one of the chicane gravel pits, maintains the lead.
That's what you call getting away with one, Paul.
Now, how do they interpret that? They did say, Tom Sneva, that if you improved your position or your time by cutting across a chicane, that they would penalize you. He didn't improve his position. Probably leave it alone, right?
Yeah, I would think so. He locks them up, and when you lock up the front tires, you just can't turn the car. Exactly what happened. He got through it pretty smooth, though, and I think he's going to get away with one.
2 positions remain the same with Fittipaldi in front. Mears runs in 2nd. Al Unser Jr., the 3rd place car, is well back. And Bobby Rahal comes around Little Al, and Rahal picks up 3rd place. So Bobby Rahal up to 3rd as Al Unser Jr. continues to fade.
I don't know if Rahal's going to have enough time.
Look at Fittipaldi as he works around a slower car, Barbazza.
This is probably some of the toughest conditions when you got the wet and the dry situation. If you get offline just a little bit, catch a puddle or whatever, just like what happened to Emo, you lock up a tire and it could cause you a serious problem. But I think Emo now, this late in the race, if he can keep it on course, should be okay.
So Fittipaldi now with Rick falling back just a bit. Rahal in 2nd place, Al Unser Jr. 3rd. Danny Sullivan sits in 4th place. The 2 Penske cars, these two brand new Chevrolet engines. The Chevy Indy V8B engine, as they take a look at Nick Fenoro's white flag, indicating one more lap around this 2.79-mile circuit at Surfers Paradise. We suggested at the beginning of the show that these first races of the year are most unusual, and this certainly proves it.
It's going to quiet the critics on reliability for the new Chevrolet engine. Obviously, they've done their homework. The Penske car, a brand new engine-car combination, and here their last lap, they're running 1-2.
It does not appear that Mears can challenge his teammate at all, and so he very wisely begins to drop back as Emerson Fittipaldi out in front. Mears in second. Rahal now closing just a little bit on Mears, but not close enough to cause any damage on this last lap. There's the interval back to Rahal. You just got a glimpse of it. Fittipaldi gestured around by Ross Bentley, who points Fittipaldi to the inside. On this, the final lap of the race.
Boy, those are little kind of help you really need in traffic late in the race for a guy to see you coming and give you enough room to get by without causing any trouble.
Ross Bentley out of Vancouver, Canada, certainly saw the leader coming and waved him to the inside of the course. So number 5, Emerson Fittipaldi, completing now his final lap. Only hoping that that new engine and these rain tires hold up through the end of this race. Look at Fittipaldi. He's been sitting back in the order through most of the day. And here, after a rain shower in the closing laps, Fittipaldi is able to surge forward, pick up the lead of the race, and drives on to the first win of the 1992 season. The final turn complete, and Emerson Fittipaldi now sees the twin checkered flags, and Emerson Fittipaldi has won. As Rick Mears screams across the line in second place, it's 1-2 for the Penske team. Well, the final results here at Surfers Paradise are parallel to what the points are, with Fittipaldi winning it, followed by Rick Mears, Bobby Rahal, Al Unser Jr., Danny Sullivan, John Andretti, and Mario Andretti side by side in 6th and 7th. Then Eddie Cheever, Scott Goodyear, Ted Prappis. As we go now through the rest of this finishing field, the first race of the season has in fact come to an end, Tom Sneva.
What has? Emo's point, he chased everybody all day. His reference point for braking was other cars. He finally got the lead late in the race. He had no reference point. Almost made him cause a mistake to shoot the chicane, but he got away with it.
I'm Paul Page for Tom Sneva, Gary Gerald, and Jan Beekes. So long from the land down under.
The IndyCar Series is presented in association with Champion Spark Plugs and Valvoline.